I like to start out by giving you my business card. If anyone wants to write it down, they can write down my phone number and email. If you ever want to call me, it doesn't really matter what title company you close at. I'm here to help you. So my office phone is 214-387-4591. My cell phone is 214-766-0151. You can call that nights or weekends. And my email is ckramer, K-R-A-M-E-R, at hklegal.net. So what are we talking about? Cyberspace pirates, I call it. I've given you a little handout, and I'm going to fill in some details, but this is really a talk about cybersecurity, and you probably have heard this before, but maybe I'll introduce something new that you haven't heard before. You also should have on your tables a really cool color handout that says Social Engineering Red Flags. I want everyone to take this, and we'll talk about that later. That goes with this talk. So what is a cyberspace pirate? What are we talking about here? These guys, or girls, whoever they are, have three basic purposes. They're either trying to get you to buy something, they're trying to sell you something. An example of that is spam. Or they're doing it for purposes of anarchy, revenge, or activism. Or they're trying to make a buck. They're trying to commit fraud or steal money. In the anarchy, revenge, activism category, the very first electronic hackers were in this category, and so they would hack into the old Southwestern Bell or Ma Bell, one of those, their landlines, and they would take over the phone company or listen to people's calls, believe it or not. They would and still continue to hack into government websites for some activist purpose or to bring it down, and they will hack into corporate websites. There are some terms that you may have heard before. We can talk about it. A denial of service attack and a distributed denial of service attack. That's basically where you take your computer or a whole network of computers and you flood a website, whether it's a corporation or government website, with requests, and you cause it to shut down. Even giant corporations such as Citibank have had their web servers closed by these DOS attacks and DDoS attacks. It still occurs, and why it happens doesn't seem to be based on money. It seems to be based on activism principles or something else, just anarchy. People that just don't want that business to operate. There is a third type of hacking activity that falls into the anarchy, revenge, activism subcategory. We call that doxing, the internet-based practice of researching and broadcasting private or identifiable information about an individual or organization, the most famous of which would be WikiLeaks, for example. They do that all the time. There's another one I've heard of called Anonymous, and I don't know who they are, but they will dox certain people, put out their phone number or their private home information. That goes into this category. But the real reason that we're here, and the reason that I want you guys to kind of pay attention, is to talk about the real aim of cyberspace pirates in 2017. That is to steal money and commit fraud. So we start with the most basic examples. The foreign investor wire scam, which I first encountered, I want to say about 8 years ago. It's the first time. But this is how you typically see it. You look at your email and you get an email that says, "Hello, we have never met, but I am in England and I want to buy this house sight unseen from you. Please find me a title company and a lawyer, and I will send you $250,000 for this home." Has anyone ever gotten an email like this or something like that? Raise your hand if you received emails like that. Now, 8 years ago, they were very hard to distinguish. We weren't familiar with that, and it is our nature as salespeople to go, "Oh my gosh, I got a prospect," and you start facilitating that. But you learn very quickly that this isn't real. And so here are some things that you should know about foreign investors in real estate. They are more cautious with their money and their advisors than Americans are. They simply do not contact a stranger to buy real estate. They're going to find a broker that came through some friend that they have known for decades and decades. Here's something else foreign persons don't do. They don't say, "Find me a lawyer." They don't just send a complete stranger tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they certainly don't buy real estate from abroad and don't plan to come see it. So if you get one of these things, you can either delete, or you can say, sure, when are you flying into DFW for me to meet you? Because that would be the obvious first step, is to see if they are a real person. You typically get them and you will see them that they're marked at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the whole idea behind these wire scams, that's what they are, is to try and get you or the title company drug into this scenario, have you believe that they're real. They are going to send you a cashier's check or check. They're going to hope that you or the lawyer, the law firm, or the title company will deposit this money, and then inevitably the second instruction will come, which is, gosh, I know I only needed $10,000 earnest money and I sent you $250,000. Can you quickly wire that back to me? I've made a terrible mistake. And if you're foolish enough, the depositor will wire back that money, and right after the wire clears and goes into their bank account, the title company or the agent or the lawyer gets the message, hey, that cashier's check is bogus. It's completely fictional. There's no money there, and you've wired your good money back to them. That's how these scams work. A variation of this works on just lawyers. I get emails all the time from people that say, I want you to help me with a contract dispute I'm having with a shipping company in China, or I'm having another dispute abroad, or this is a case in which I was drastically injured and I have no head and it was cut off. I mean, I don't know, but they want to hire a lawyer, and what they're going to do is they're going to send a bogus retainer to the lawyer. And you may not know this, but a law firm that I think I know who they are, but I can't say, a huge Dallas area law firm got scammed and sent, I don't know, $400,000 to $500,000 of their own funds, or really their clients' funds, which they had to replace, to one of these scammers about 6-7 years ago. So we've all grown wiser with experience and pain and those sorts of things. So when you see these emails saying, I want to buy real estate, they're not real. This is just a variation of this. Tell me if you've gotten this email. Help, I've lost my wallet and all my identification. Can you send me some money? That's another variation of that, okay? Those are scammers that have perhaps hacked into your friend's email, and they get their email address and they're sending a bogus or phony email from that account to everyone in their address book, hoping that maybe someone will send some money. Ransomware. This is where you get a message that says, please deposit $10,000 in bitcoins, which is a type of electronic currency that is rather unusual, to have your blocked files released, or to have all of these porn banners removed from your website there. They will hack into your computer, they will lock you up, you cannot get your own files, and then they say, now it'll cost $5,000 to release your files. You're going to need to immediately go to your IT person, and if you don't have an IT person, I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe buy a new computer and do, hopefully everyone is backing up their computers, but that's what ransomware is. And then the fourth and final category, the one that you guys are seeing more and more, are real estate transaction wire scams. These are the current favorite of these guys. They became really popular in late 2014 and early 2015. The title company that I do a lot of work with did not suffer any great losses, but boy did we have some close calls. And I'll give you some examples. How do they do it? Email, email, email. Why do they use email? Why do these guys use this medium of scamming? Well, let's look at how we practice real estate in this world, in this modern time. Our business communications are increasingly indirect. We don't talk to each other anymore face to face. We're all too busy. We send text messages. We send emails. We leave voicemails. No one talks to anyone anymore. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but think of your last few real estate transactions or your communications with your title company or lender. It's all this electronic communication. Because of this, there is a lot of detailed and private information that gets transmitted electronically. Contracts, copies of checks, closing statements, wire instructions, and private communications involving money and bank accounts. With email, there is no real way to know whether the sender is the true and genuine sender or a pirate. So it is the perfect shield of anonymity for these people. It can be sent from anywhere in the world. So if I want to imitate Mark Miller and be communicating with one of his customers, it's very easy, and not so easy, but I might try and hack into his system and spoof him and pretend that I'm Mark Miller and send emails from him or Charles Kramer or Kerry Robertson or any of these people to his customers. This type of activity is called phishing, with a PH. I don't know why they spelled it that way. It is a concentrated and sophisticated attempt to obtain sensitive information, such as your passwords or credit card details, through email inquiries. And there's a new term that's emerged in the last year or so called spear phishing, where you're not just trying to get people's credit card information, you've got a particular target in mind. You have been watching the emails of a particular closer at a title company or a particular loan officer. You have hacked into their system and you're just watching and you're watching and you see a $2 million buyer. And that's the whale you're going to go after. You're going to spear that big whale on that big transaction. You're going to imitate that seller, for example, and I'm going to get their money. That's what spear phishing is. It's targeted at specific individuals or companies, and it's a lot of waiting and a lot of monitoring. So here's one example. An email comes to a buyer's agent whose name, email, and social media presence are well known and advertised, which I would expect would be the norm. It purports to be from Zip Forms. It says, please log in your info to access your contract. It has an embedded hyperlink in the email, something you click on that will take you to someplace on the internet. There are red flags that the busy agent or their assistant do not notice in this email. For example, the email was sent at 3:31 a.m. When you hover over the link to hit for your Zip Forms contract with the cursor, it displays an unknown or unfamiliar website. There's another red flag. You don't recall any current or pending transaction. Let's just say it's a slow time, so you don't know why Zip Forms would be sending you this, but oh well, you think, great, I got a contract. You have never received an unsolicited email like this from Zip Form Realty before. The email itself has some minor spelling and grammar mistakes. And there is another person copied on this email that you don't know. But nevertheless, the buyer's agent hits the link and it takes them to a site that looks completely legitimate and asks for the agent's information, their email, their Zip Forms login, their password, etc. And all of that gets entered into this legitimate looking web page for Zip Forms. The agent or assistant enters the information thinking it will open Zip Forms and reveal a contract or other information. You're just clicking and thinking, let's see what goes on. The site locks or does nothing. And the agent or assistant just gives up, closes the window, and moves on to other duties. The pirate on the other end has used that information to create a duplicate or fake email account for the agent, hack into the agent's email account, and read all of their emails. They're using it to get familiar with the agent's pending deals and details for all of those deals, including the email addresses of the buyer client, the lender, and the title company. The pirate then sometime later sends out a bogus email from the agent, purporting to be the agent, to their buyer, using the agent's logo and other identifying marks that they have from you from the legitimate emails they have seen. The email from the pirate to the buyer says, hey, buyer, it's me, your agent. We have a deal on 123 Main Street. I am so excited and happy for you. I need you to wire the earnest money, $10,000, to the title company today. Here are their wire instructions. Let's move on this quick. The buyer wires the money. The pirate then moves the funds to an offshore bank, or maybe that wire instruction was an offshore bank, and they are gone forever. Variation. The email from the pirate to the buyer is not an instruction to wire in earnest money. It is an instruction to wire in purchase money, closing proceeds. This has happened. It has happened in other states. It has happened elsewhere in the state of Texas. Agent is hacked. Buyer doesn't know any better. They think it is an email from their agent. As you can see, this is a very detailed, informed, and targeted attack. Example 2. Let's pick on title companies now. Email comes to an escrow assistant and closer for a large and well-known title company. It is from Citibank. We are having problems with your account, it says. Please access our secured page and follow the instructions to relog your credentials. The email looks legitimate and contains a hyperlink for Citibank. The assistant, who has a Citibank credit card account, hits the link. Nothing happens. But unknown to the escrow assistant, a program executes which embeds spyware onto and into the assistant's computer. The spyware allows the pirate to see, read, and review, and even divert all emails to and from the closer and her team. Emails to and from agents, seller, buyer, and lender. The entire transaction is laid out. The pirate sends a spoof email to the title company closer, pretending to be the seller or the seller's agent, because they've got all their email information, all of their information. It says, please wire my closing funds to the following bank. The title company closes, they fund, they wire the money according to the seller's email, which was straight from the pirate, and guess what? The seller calls a few days after closing and funding and says, where's my money? Title company doesn't feel very good at that point. And they're going to have to cover that loss. And that has happened to some title companies, although fortunately I don't think it's happened to anybody in DFW, but it is happening in other states. We've all gotten wiser as title companies. Variation, same thing above, but the bogus email sent to the closer pretends to be from the listing broker and says, here is our CDA. You know, that's a term I never heard of until I got into the business. But these pirates know what a commission disbursement authorization is. They hack into emails to copy the forms from these major brokers, and they send a phony CDA. It says, please wire all funds as instructed. And then guess who calls the title company after funding? The broker. Hey, where's our commission? I know this closed and funded. And the title company says, we sent it according to your email, and that's where the fraud is discovered. Yikes. Types of bait in emails. Okay, that's what we were talking about, phishing. Hyperlinks are the obvious one. But there are other things that are found in emails that are in the nature of programs. Believe it or not, Excel documents and Word documents can have what we call embedded macros, which are little programs that execute. And so, for example, on the network that I'm on, which is shared with the title company I do work for, they have disabled, I can't do macros in Word, and I can't do macros. There's a little thing that's completely disabled. Believe it or not, PDF documents in Adobe can have malicious code. And all of these programs which run in the background are used to redirect the user to a site where they sucker them into giving them login credentials, or they install programs on that user's machine which spy, monitor, and allow that user to divert communications with a bogus email address. Why are brokers and agents especially susceptible? Well, brokerage is still largely an industry of home-based, individual, independent contractors. Many agents do not work in large corporate environments. They do not have an IT department. They do not have a firewall or what we call a sandbox server which sits in front of their mail server. And many agents employ home or consumer email services such as Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, and AOL. Many clients of agents, such as sellers and buyers, are exactly the same. Lots and lots of sensitive and confidential contract and other financial information is passed to and from these home brokers, home sellers, home agents with very little protection. Contracts, which are confidential, copies of checks, banks or other financial information. Information on closing just goes in between these unsecured email systems there. So what is our takeaway? What can agents and brokers do? Number one, don't take the bait. Okay, this is why I have sent around, or you guys have this social engineering red flags. I'd like you to study this a little bit later, but these are the kinds of red flags that you need to look for in your emails, and share this with your office, and share this with your broker, and share this with your manager. This is a really good handout. Just look at some of them. It shows red flags on the to line. If you get carbon copied on an email that was sent to one or more people, but you don't know any of the other people, that's a huge red flag. If it was sent to an unusual mix of people, you know them, but they're not connected with you. They're your bunco group, or and you're getting a business email for your bunco group. That doesn't make any sense. Was it sent at an unusual time? Are there spelling errors? Does it come from a suspicious domain? Do you just have a bad feeling about it? You know, sometimes I will get an email and I won't see red flags, but it's from someone I don't know, and I just go, who are they? Why are they sending me this? And I will simply ignore it. And if they really want to contact me, they'll pick up the phone or maybe send an email that makes more sense there. But I don't click nearly as quickly as I used to here. Number two thing that brokers and agents can do, pick up the phone. Call if you ever receive any change in instructions via email or any email which does not seem to make sense. Use your gut instinct. This is what title managers are telling their employees. You know, if we are sending money to someone and we get an email 2 weeks before closing or 2 days before closing says, oh, I want you to send the money here, that closer is supposed to pick up the phone and call the seller and say, did you send me this email? And we have done that, and we have found fraud. No, I didn't send you an email. They were phishing. You should do the same thing. Now, this third one is going to seem like a pain, but change your password regularly. The system that I am in requires me to change my password every 90 days. So it goes back and forth between all the dogs I've ever owned and various numbers and letters. But you need to change it regularly. You should not be using the same password you used 4 years ago. And I know that's kind of a pain to keep up with, and there is software that you can buy as password managers. You should consider looking into that so you can have different, you don't want to have the same password for all your stuff. Here, don't use the same password for every website or account you have. Use a password manager. That's number 4. Number 5. Use multi-factor authentication, which is a fancy word for something that many agents and brokers don't do. That is when you have, for example, a Yahoo email account or a Gmail email account. In order to access it, they send a code to your phone. And then you have to look at your phone and you have to enter that 6-digit code in the case of email. I don't know how many of you have this set up on your Gmail account. How many of you have Gmail and you don't have this set up? There's a few. Nah, I've done this. You really should if you're using Yahoo, AOL, Gmail, or any of the massive email servers. Use multi-factor authentication. Give them your mobile number and it will send you a code. That cuts down on 90% of this stuff. Because only you have your phone, only you have your phone number, and when a hacker tries to get into your email and they have to enter in a code from Google, they can't do it. So go back and look at your email accounts and set up multi-factor authentication. All of the big ones have this. It really works to deter intrusion into your email and social media accounts. Brokers, if we have any brokers or supervisors, test your agents. Many companies use software that sends fake emails to random users to see who clicks. You can actually get these programs. If a company trains their folks well on these red flags, they can reduce the click rate from, say, 30% down to 4%. That's the whole idea. If you've got a big organization or you got many agents, it's not enough to just say, here, agent, just pay attention to this. I mean, if you're the broker and your name is of record with TREC and you're responsible for all those liabilities that occur, you really want to investigate how you might train your agents in these things. Maybe have a meeting about this, maybe talk about it, maybe look into the software that sends, and those emails are generated by you. your IT department, and they don't do anything, but they've got these red flags, and you're looking to see who clicks on it. And the last thing, and then we'll kind of stop, and this is the one that surprises people. My IT guy said, agents don't use open wireless networks or hotspots to send and receive work or other email with sensitive information in it. So I think that essentially means don't send a copy of a check or a contract from Starbucks, because even though it's, quote, encrypted and a private network, it's not really private. Anybody that goes up to get coffee can get the same password, and you could have a pirate sitting right next to you. Maybe you go to the same Starbucks every day to do work, and it's obvious you're a real estate broker. And so someone who is really sophisticated in technology might decide to just sit at that Starbucks and hack into your email and see what's going on. Do your stuff from your company's network or your home network, and those should be secured networks, and the chance of you getting hacked in those places is much less than Starbucks or any of your other facilities with hotspots or public Wi-Fi. Have I scared everybody sufficiently? It is scary. But being informed is the best thing you can do. Take a look at these social engineering red flags. If you've got somebody that is over your network, talk to them about these issues. Talk with your broker. And everybody just be highly sensitive, because email is the way these pirates are getting in the system. They're using email, they're spoofing you, they're imitating you, and if everybody is hypersensitive to these things, we can save ourselves a lot of trouble and money, primarily. We have time for questions. Good. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Do you have that chart on your website?
I can. If you give me your card with an email address, I will email you a PDF of this thing. I've made 100 copies. I don't know how many people we have out there, but it's in color and it's really nice. So give me your card and I'll email you the same PDF of these social engineering red flags. Yes, that. Yes. Carla has a few extras. Any other questions? Yes. If you get hacked, you're going to have to call the person in charge of your network. And if you're just an agent and you don't have anybody in charge of your network, I would recommend that you perhaps start a new email account, use multi-factor, start over, basically, and transfer all of your information to a new email and let everybody in your business know that you have a new email. Let your title companies know, let your customers know. You're just going to have to start over there.
We have a person in our office who got all their stuff taken, and they had to pay a huge dollar amount to get it back.
Ransomware. Did you hear that?
Right, exactly. They paid it because
they didn't have any choice.
That's right. And they did get...
They'd got their stuff unlocked.
most of their stuff back. But isn't that still dangerous, those people?
What do you do? I mean, you can either... I guess you could go to the police, but to be honest, I don't think City of Plano has time to deal with a ransomware attack coming out of the Netherlands. They're just not going to have the resources to do it. And the FBI is going to be more concerned about, you know, whether Obama peaked on Trump. So, you know, you do the best you can. I don't have, if you're by yourself and you don't have an IT guy over you, my suggestion is to start over as best you can. Yes?
So if you have it backed up in the cloud and that happens.
You could, if you have your information back, which I didn't emphasize enough, backup regularly of your information, your data, your files is important. If you back up to a cloud service, which is wonderful, then if you get hacked, you pick a new email and you start using that information from the cloud through your new email. And again, multi-factor authentication. Set up that new email where you have to dial in a code that is sent to your phone. That's what I would do. Any more questions? Okay, sorry to scare you. It's a tough world. Thanks so much. Call me if you need me.